They conquered thousands of star systems. They crushed every civilization that dared resist. They were so powerful that entire galaxies feared their name. But when they demanded humanity surrender, humanity laughed. What followed was a war that lasted 11 years, inspired an entire galaxy to rebel, awakened an ancient horror older than the stars themselves, and forced mankind to face the ultimate question. What do you do when the thing coming for you has never been defeated? This is the story of how humanity's greatest weapon wasn't strength, technology, or war. It was something far more powerful: the galactic concord had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Its laws were simple. When a stronger power arrived, weaker civilizations surrendered. Resistance was considered foolish. Survival depended on obedience, and every species eventually learned this lesson. Every species except humanity. When the Ascendant Empire emerged from the dark regions beyond explored space, entire sectors fell without a fight. Their fleets numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Their warships dwarfed moons. Their technology was centuries ahead of anyone else's. World after world bowed before them. Then the Ascendants reached human space. Their first message arrived above Mars. Surrender immediately. Resistance is mathematically impossible. The human government gathered in emergency session. Admirals, politicians, scientists, and military leaders argued for hours. Some suggested negotiation. Others proposed retreating deeper into human territory. Finally, the decision was made. A single response was transmitted to the Ascendant flagship. On the enemy bridge, Supreme Commander Zyron watched as a human admiral appeared on the screen. The man looked exhausted. His uniform was stained with grease, and warning alarms echoed somewhere behind him. The admiral accepted a cup of coffee from someone off camera, took a sip, and smiled. "So," he said, "you want us to surrender?" The Ascendant officers waited. The human shrugged. "Yeah. No." The transmission ended. The war began 3 minutes later. The Ascendants expected a quick victory. Instead, they entered a nightmare. Human fleets never fought according to logic. When faced with overwhelming force, they retreated. When cornered, they attacked. When defeated, they somehow returned stronger than before. Asteroid belts became minefields. Comets became weapons. Civilian freighters were converted into missile carriers. Entire moons vanished from scanners, only to reappear months later as heavily armed fortresses. The Ascendants destroyed human shipyards. Humans built new ones. They bombed factories. Humans moved production underground. They captured colonies. Humans turned neighboring systems into military strongholds. Every victory against humanity seemed to create 2 new problems. By the 4th year of the war, Ascendant commanders dreaded assignments involving Terran forces. Human ships appeared where they shouldn't. They survived conditions that should have killed them. One fleet hid inside a hollow asteroid for 8 months before launching a surprise attack that destroyed an entire Ascendant supply network. Another group crossed a supposedly impassable nebula and emerged behind enemy lines. Nothing humans did made sense. Yet somehow it worked. During the 7th year, the war spread across hundreds of systems. Entire alien civilizations watched in disbelief. Humanity had suffered catastrophic losses. Billions were dead. Cities had been destroyed. Colonies had fallen. Still they fought. Still they rebuilt. Still they refused to surrender. For many species, it was the first time they had ever witnessed true defiance. The humans were not winning. But they were not losing either. And that realization changed everything. If the mighty Ascendant Empire could be challenged, perhaps it could be defeated. The idea spread across the galaxy. Hope followed. In the 10th year, the Ascendants launched their final offensive. Thousands of warships surrounded Earth. Human defenses were exhausted. Ammunition was running low. For the first time, even human commanders feared the end had arrived. The Ascendant fleet advanced toward the blue world. Then long-range sensors detected incoming vessels. At first, the humans believed they were additional enemy reinforcements. Then identification codes appeared. They belonged to dozens of alien species. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Ships poured into the solar system from every direction. Former neutral worlds. Independent colonies. Civilizations that had once surrendered without resistance. They had all come. Not because humanity had asked for help. Because humanity had shown them something they had forgotten. Courage. Captain Elena Reyes stood aboard Earth's command station and opened a system-wide transmission. For 10 years, she said, we've been told resistance is pointless. Her words echoed across thousands of ships. We've been told survival means obedience. More vessels emerged from hyperspace. We've been told strength belongs only to tyrants. She looked toward the enormous Ascendant Armada. We disagree. Across the fleet, weapons powered up. Today, the galaxy disagrees. The battle that followed became the largest conflict in recorded history. For 3 days and 3 nights, the stars themselves seemed to burn. Human ships fought beside former enemies. Ancient rivalries vanished. Entire civilizations stood together against the Ascendant Empire. When the fighting finally ended, the Ascendant flagship drifted powerless among the wreckage. Its empire collapsed within months. The age of fear was over. Centuries later, students throughout the galaxy would study the war and ask the same question. How had humanity survived? The answer was surprisingly simple. Humans possessed no secret technology. No hidden superweapons. No divine advantage. They simply refused to accept defeat. And from that stubborn refusal, they changed the fate of the galaxy. A new saying spread among the stars. Never corner a human. They don't know when they're beaten. And eventually, neither will you. The wreckage of the final battle still drifted through the solar system. Thousands of broken warships orbited silently around Earth. Salvage crews worked day and night, recovering survivors and collecting debris from what historians would later call the day fear died. For the first time in a decade, the galaxy knew peace. Or so they thought. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Earth's rebuilt orbital station, staring at the stars. The war was over. The Ascendant Empire had collapsed. Yet something felt wrong. A message alert appeared on her wrist display. Priority 1. Galactic Council. Immediate. Elena frowned. The newly formed Galactic Council rarely used Priority 1 channels. She accepted the call. A hologram of Counselor Vex appeared. The alien's expression was grim. Captain Reyes, he said, we have discovered something. What kind of something? Elena asked. The counselor hesitated. The kind that makes us wish the Ascendants had never arrived. 3 hours later, representatives from dozens of species gathered in the council chamber. The room was silent. At the center stood an ancient metallic sphere recovered from the Ascendant flagship. It was nearly 10 meters wide and covered in symbols no one could read. Scientists from every major civilization had examined it. None understood its purpose. Until now. A researcher activated the holographic display. A star map appeared. Gasps filled the chamber. The map extended far beyond known space. Far beyond former Ascendant territory. Far beyond anything the galaxy had ever explored. Thousands of stars glowed red. One region in particular dominated the display. An enormous cluster of systems marked with a single symbol. The researcher swallowed nervously. We believe this is where the Ascendants came from. Murmurs spread through the room. Counselor Vex nodded. Continue. The researcher enlarged the image. What appeared next froze everyone in place. The Ascendant Empire represented only a tiny fraction of the highlighted territory. A frontier region. A border province. A distant outpost. Not the center of power. Not even close. The researcher took a deep breath. Our best estimate suggests the force humanity defeated represented less than 1% of their civilization. Silence. Absolute silence. Then someone laughed. A nervous, terrified laugh. That's impossible. No one disagreed. Unfortunately, the evidence did. The next revelation was even worse. Data recovered from the sphere revealed why the Ascendants had invaded. It had never been a conquest. It had never been a war. It had been a test. A routine evaluation of neighboring galaxies. The Ascendants had encountered resistance. Then they had stopped reporting. Someone would eventually come looking. And whoever came next would be expecting answers. Elena stared at the data. How long do we have? The researcher looked away. Maybe 20 years. The chamber erupted into chaos. For 10 years the galaxy had celebrated victory. Now they learned they had merely attracted the attention of something far larger. Something that viewed the mighty Ascendant Empire as expendable. The celebrations ended overnight. Shipyards returned to full production. Research programs multiplied. Military alliances expanded. Every civilization prepared for what might come. But humanity did something different. As usual. They started asking questions. Why had the Ascendants become so powerful? Why were they afraid of whoever ruled beyond their borders? And most importantly, what could frighten an empire that had once terrified an entire galaxy? Months later, a human exploration vessel named Dauntless crossed into previously forbidden Ascendant territory. Its mission was simple. Find answers. The crew expected abandoned worlds and military ruins. Instead, they found something else. Evidence. Entire star systems had been stripped of resources. Planets showed signs of evacuation. Ancient battlefields littered the void. Every discovery pointed toward a disturbing conclusion. The Ascendants had not been expanding. They had been retreating. For centuries. Running from something. Deep within a ruined fortress world, the crew finally uncovered a surviving Ascendant database. As the files were translated, fear spread through the ship. The records described an enemy known only as the Silence. No images existed. No biological data. No reliable descriptions. Only reports. Worlds disappearing. Civilizations vanishing. Stars going dark. Entire sectors erased without warning. Every species that encountered the Silence eventually ceased to exist. The Ascendants had spent thousands of years fleeing. Conquering. Expanding. Building armies. Not to rule the galaxy, but to survive. And in all that time, they had never won a single war against the Silence. Captain Elena Reyes received the report while standing beneath Earth's night sky. She read the final line 3 times. Then a fourth. The words refused to feel real. Warning to all successor civilizations. If you are reading this, they know you exist. Elena slowly lowered the datapad. Above her, the stars seemed colder than before. Much colder. Because somewhere beyond the darkness between galaxies, something had finally noticed humanity. And it was already moving. The message spread across the galaxy in less than a week. If you are reading this, they know you exist. Every news network broadcast it. Every government analyzed it. Every military commander memorized it. No one slept much afterward. For the first time since the fall of the Ascendant Empire, the galaxy understood true fear. Not fear of invasion. Not fear of defeat. Fear of extinction. 3 months after the discovery, deep space observatories began detecting strange anomalies beyond the galactic rim. At first, scientists dismissed them as sensor errors. Then the anomalies moved. Entire teams were assigned to investigate. The results were disturbing. Objects were crossing the vast emptiness between galaxies. Not ships. Not fleets. Something else. The signals did not match any known technology. They emitted no radio transmissions. No engine signatures. No detectable energy source. Yet they continued advancing. Relentlessly. Directly toward the Milky Way. On Earth, Captain Elena Reyes stood before an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed. Scientists, admirals, diplomats, and world leaders watched as a holographic image appeared above the central platform. A cluster of glowing dots moved across the map. Each represented one of the unknown objects. There are currently 17 confirmed contacts, Elena explained. Speed? Asked Counselor Vex. Approximately 12% of lightspeed. A murmur spread through the room. That was impossibly fast for something without visible propulsion. Elena enlarged the image. The nearest contact blinked red. It will reach the outer edge of our galaxy in 4 years. The room fell silent. 4 years. That was all they had. Preparations began immediately. Shipyards operated 24 hours a day. Military budgets became meaningless. Entire economies shifted to wartime production. Human engineers worked alongside hundreds of alien species. For the first time in history, the galaxy functioned as a single civilization. And still, nobody knew if it would be enough. 1 year later, humanity made a decision. If an enemy was coming, they needed information. Someone had to meet it first. The mission was considered suicidal. Thousands volunteered. Millions, eventually. In the end, a single ship was chosen. The Dauntless. Again. The vessel had become legendary after its discoveries within former Ascendant territory. Now it would travel farther than any ship in recorded history. Its objective was simple. Find the approaching enemy. Learn anything possible. Return if able. Captain Elena Reyes personally watched the launch. As the vessel disappeared into hyperspace, she wondered if she would ever see its crew again. 2 years passed. Then 3. The unknown contacts continued approaching. The galaxy waited. Then, unexpectedly, a message arrived. The Dauntless had survived. Barely. Its transmission reached Earth through a chain of emergency relay drones. The footage immediately became the most viewed recording in galactic history. The video began with static. Damaged alarms echoed in the background. A wounded crew member sat before the camera. His face was pale. His uniform torn. Behind him, entire sections of the ship appeared destroyed. "We found them," he said quietly. No one in the galaxy breathed. The crewman swallowed. "They aren't ships." The transmission briefly distorted. When it stabilized, tears were visible in his eyes. "They're alive." Across billions of worlds, viewers stared in disbelief. "Alive?" The crewman continued. "We encountered one of them. Just one." His voice shook. It was larger than a moon. Silence filled the recording. Not inside a vessel. The creature itself was larger than a moon. Panic spread through the Galactic Council chamber. Several leaders demanded the transmission be stopped. Others insisted it continue. Elena never looked away. The crewman activated a visual recording. The image that appeared froze entire civilizations. Floating in the darkness between galaxies was something colossal. Its body resembled no known life form. Countless luminous tendrils stretched across millions of kilometers. Entire asteroids drifted around it like dust. Stars reflected across a surface that seemed neither organic nor mechanical. It looked less like a creature and more like a natural disaster. Something ancient. Something impossible. Something that should not exist. The recording ended. The crewman returned to view. His expression was haunted. We observed it for 19 minutes. Then it noticed us. Nobody moved. Nobody blinked. The crewman's voice dropped to a whisper. It looked directly at our ship. A long pause followed. Then he spoke words that would be remembered forever. It smiled. The transmission abruptly ended. No further messages arrived. The Dauntless was never heard from again. A week later, long-range observatories reported a new development. The 17 approaching contacts had stopped moving independently. They were gathering together. Converging. Combining. Scientists couldn't explain it. Until the sensors revealed the truth. The 17 contacts were not 17 creatures. They were fragments. Pieces. Parts of something much larger. Something assembling itself. When calculations were completed, even the most experienced astronomers refused to believe the results. The object forming beyond the galactic rim was larger than entire solar systems. And it was heading straight toward the Milky Way. That night, Elena Reyes stood alone beneath Earth's stars. She remembered the day humanity had refused to surrender to the Ascendants. Back then the enemy had seemed unstoppable. Now she almost laughed at the comparison. The Ascendants had been conquerors. This thing was something else entirely. A force of nature. A predator. And according to every surviving record, nothing had ever defeated one. The stars above seemed unusually bright. Almost watchful. As if the universe itself was waiting. Waiting to see what humanity would do next. Because the largest battle in history was coming. And for the first time, humanity had no plan. Humanity had no plan. For the first time in its history, there was no clever strategy, no hidden weapon, no desperate gamble waiting to be revealed. The enemy approaching the Milky Way was simply too large. Too ancient. Too powerful. The assembled records of 1,000 civilizations all agreed on one point. Nothing had ever defeated the creatures known as the Silence. Nothing had even survived them. Worlds vanished. Stars died. Entire galaxies went dark. And now one of them was coming. Across the galaxy, fear returned. Some governments proposed evacuation. Others discussed surrender. A few argued for hiding among distant stars and hoping not to be noticed. Humanity listened to every suggestion. Then rejected them all. Because there was one problem. The Silence already knew they existed. Running would only delay the inevitable. 3 years remained before contact. Then 2. Then 1. The galaxy prepared for extinction. Massive defense fleets gathered around key worlds. Planetary shields were upgraded. Weapons capable of cracking planets were built in record numbers. No one truly believed they would work. But doing nothing felt worse. Then, 6 months before arrival, a breakthrough occurred. Not in a laboratory. Not in a shipyard. But in an archive. A human historian reviewing Ascendant records noticed something strange. Every civilization destroyed by the Silence had one thing in common. They had fought separately. Alone. Isolated. World after world. Species after species. The Silence had consumed them individually. Never together. The discovery seemed insignificant. Until someone asked a simple question. What if that matters? For months, scientists searched for answers. Then an artificial intelligence analyzing centuries of data found a pattern. The Silence did not merely consume matter. It consumed information. Memories. Knowledge. Identity. Entire civilizations disappeared because the silence erased what made them unique. It fed on separation, on isolation, on individuals. The larger and more connected a civilization became, the harder it was for the creature to erase. For the first time, a weakness had been identified. A tiny weakness. But a weakness nonetheless. The solution that followed sounded insane. Naturally, humanity approved immediately. Every major civilization in the galaxy would connect its networks, its archives, its cultures, its histories, its minds. Everything. A single shared consciousness. Not permanently. Only long enough to confront the silence. The project was called Unity. Many feared it. Many opposed it. Yet as the final countdown continued, support grew. There were no better alternatives. On the day of arrival, the galaxy became one. Trillions of beings linked together. Humans. Former ascendants. Hundreds of alien species. Countless cultures. Countless lives. For the first time, every voice became part of a greater whole. Not a hive mind. Not a dictatorship. A partnership. An entire galaxy speaking together. Then the silence arrived. Every telescope focused on the galactic rim. Every screen displayed the same image. The colossal entity drifted from the darkness between galaxies. It was larger than scientists had feared. Larger than calculations predicted. Its vast tendrils stretched across multiple star systems. Reality itself seemed to bend around it. Stars dimmed as it passed. Planets trembled. Entire fleets looked microscopic beside it. The creature stopped. It observed the galaxy. And then it moved forward. The first defensive line opened fire. Thousands of warships unleashed enough energy to destroy worlds. The attacks vanished against the creature's surface. The second line fired. Then the third. The silence ignored them all. Exactly as the records predicted. Across the Unity network, panic threatened to spread. Then a familiar voice spoke. Captain Elena Reyes. Older now. Gray-haired. Tired. But still standing. We knew this wouldn't work. The panic eased. We didn't come this far expecting easy victories. Across trillions of minds, determination returned. Human determination. The most contagious force in the galaxy. The silence entered the outer regions of the Milky Way. And Unity activated. Instead of attacking physically, the combined consciousness of the galaxy reached outward. Memories flooded the network. Every story. Every dream. Every song. Every discovery. Every act of courage. Every sacrifice. The entirety of galactic civilization surged toward the creature. Not as a weapon. As a declaration. A statement. A refusal. The silence attempted to consume it. To erase it. To devour countless identities as it had done before. Then something unexpected happened. There was too much. Far too much. Trillions of lives. Millions of years of history. An endless ocean of interconnected existence. The creature could not isolate it. Could not divide it. Could not erase it. For the first time in its unimaginable existence. The silence struggled. The battle lasted 3 days. Not a battle of fleets. Not a battle of weapons. A battle of existence itself. The silence attempted to reduce the galaxy to nothing. The galaxy refused. Again and again. The same stubborn answer echoed through Unity. The same answer humanity had given the Ascendants decades earlier. No. On the third day, something extraordinary happened. The creature stopped attacking. For the first time, it communicated. A single thought echoed across the network. Ancient. Vast. Lonely. Why do you resist? Trillions heard the question. Yet only one response emerged. Humanity's response. Elena Reyes smiled. The same smile a human admiral had worn decades before. Then she answered. Because we're not alone. For a moment that seemed to last forever, the silence remained motionless. Processing. Thinking. Remembering. Something no one believed possible occurred. The creature revealed fragments of memory. Images of countless dead galaxies. Ancient civilizations. Cosmic disasters. A universe growing colder with every passing age. The silence had not been a conqueror. It had been the last survivor. A being so ancient that it had forgotten how to connect with others. It consumed civilizations because it could no longer understand them. Loneliness had become hunger. The realization swept through unity. And for the first time, the galaxy understood its enemy. The silence was not evil. It was alone. More alone than any living thing had ever been. Humanity made one final choice. Instead of destroying the creature, they shared memories, friendship, laughter, hope. Everything that made life worth living. The gift spread through unity and flowed into the ancient being. For hours, the exchange continued. Then the silence began to change. The darkness surrounding it slowly faded. The immense tendrils withdrew. The creature looked toward the stars. Toward the countless lives it had once feared. And finally, it turned away. The silence left the Milky Way. Not defeated. Not destroyed. Simply no longer alone. Centuries later, historians still debated the events of those days. Some called it humanity's greatest victory. Others argued it was the galaxy's. But most agreed on one thing. The strongest weapon humanity ever possessed was never its ships. Never its armies. Never its technology. It was the simple belief that no one should face the darkness alone. Not even an ancient monster between galaxies. And so the galaxy entered a new age. An age of unity. An age of exploration. An age of hope. Whenever young students asked how humanity saved the stars, their teachers would smile and tell them the truth. Humanity won because it did the one thing nobody expected. When faced with the oldest terror in the universe, they offered friendship. And the darkness blinked first.